Good evening, everyone. It's our first meeting in November the 6th. It's 5:35. Call this meeting to order. The first. I don't think we're on.
There's audio, there's no camera.
Can you hear us? Can everybody out there
You
hear
gotta
us?
turn the cameras on, I think, Martin.
Yeah, they can hear
Oh,
you.
they are.
Yeah.
We can hear you, but not see you.
Is it the power button?
Nope.
Nope.
Hang on.
Nope.
How's that?
We've got it.
There we go.
Take two. Welcome to the November 6th Select Board meeting at 5:35, more or less. The first order of business are the minutes. I would entertain a motion to accept both the Select Board as well as the executive session minutes from October the 16th.
Make a motion to accept both minutes.
Thank you, Mandy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any comments? James, all in favor, say aye. Aye, it's unanimous. Moving on to the warrants or the accounts payable through today, November the 6th. Take a motion to accept those.
So moved.
Thank you, Tom. And a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mandy. Any questions?
Yeah. What were the maps that Gary Tractor did?
I don't know.
That was my question as well.
Rob didn't tell me what they were for.
So the Conservation Commission is asking for them.
Yes, they were done for the Conservation Commission. I don't, they did a big thing down at some of the falls. It might have something to do with some of the falls.
Well, it says 17-acre map and Jenny Town Forest map.
No.
For,
Maybe they did the same thing. I don't know, Clyde.
because they're recorded surveys on both of them up there.
Yeah, I agree that there's a lot of work going on. So actually, I take that back. I was thinking of some of the falls.
I will find out.
And this, please. Martin, which truck was it down to the TG in Westminster for an axle alignment for $2,300?
There was an actual alignment and there was a couple other, it was getting a state inspection. They did the actual alignment and there's a couple of small items done that came up to that.
And are you aware, or is our fleet intact at this point?
All but one truck.
Oh, but the one truck.
Yes.
Is that truck the $13,000 motor charge?
Yes.
So
our-
down payment on that?
Yes, that's for the engine. So our red F-550 engine blew up. It's a diesel motor.
Yeah.
New motor was $25,000 with 3-year unlimited mileage. I know past coworker that opened up his own diesel business. It's a remanufactured Jasper motor for $16,000 with a 3-year 36,000 miles. 3-year 36,000 mile warranty.
You know, I mean, it seems like we're doing a lot of maintenance on equipment. Are we doing enough routine maintenance to?
Yes, yeah, I've looked into that when the red truck had its issue a month ago. I talked to Bill and
Yeah, we're doing everything.
we're doing what we're supposed to do. Yes.
And we requested that they start keeping a log, so that we actually know what's being done, when it's being done. As many people know, a lot of those large diesels are very, very particular on the V.S.A of the oil, so we want to make sure that we're not just slopping in whatever's available. So really trying to tighten things up, Jim. Okay. Martin, I am surprised to see a digital radio here. I thought we finished getting.
So the digital radios, the checks had to go to somebody different. They never cashed the original checks. So I voided the original checks and we paid one a couple of months ago and the other half of the payment is being paid now.
Okay,
So it's only been one payment, it's just got
a
extended.
few times.
Yes.
Seriously. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Just a couple of quick ones. The 17,900 for the walking path. Is
That's
there
the
like,
second payment.
yeah, is there revenue that you have tucked away somewhere?
Yeah, so that's on the revenue side. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that came out of the recreation building fund. Not the general fund.
And I think my last one is the, actually, you know what, gonna call it there, I think I'm good.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the warrants?
Aye.
Motion is unanimous. I know of one adjustment to the agenda that I'd like to have. Under new business, item 5, I'd like to turn that from discussion to discussion and action.
So taking action on the legal birds.
Yes. Yeah. And all will become self-evident when we get there.
If we smell smoke before that agenda item.
Just check it out. Any other adjustments?
Do you want to move Mr. Geiger up?
No,
Okay.
primarily because we have 3 individuals all waiting.
Okay.
So Kevin, I'm sorry, we talked about that, but we will move as quickly as possible.
Move Mr. Geiger up.
No. Moving on to public comments. I have 2 items I would like to mention. One is a sincere thank you to our anonymous benefactor who paid for half of the walking path upgrade. If the board would like, I'll just drop a thank you note and give it to give it to John to give to the donor. We don't know who that is. I did walk the path recently on a nice warm day, and there was a fly fisherman coming out of the brook and walking along the path, and it looked pretty special. So thank you to whoever you are out there. The second is I'd like to say thank you to our garden club, the Hartland Garden Club. In May, during their plant sale, they were talking about wanting to do something in the intersection. Martin, why don't you finish the thank you? Thank you to
Dan Talbert, Cheryl George, Tom Graham, and Sarah White were here this past weekend, and they planted the bulbs. So next spring, we at the edge of the bump out, as everybody calls it, on Queechee Road, we'll have some very pretty flowers coming up through.
Okay.
And we're not talking about a dozen bulbs, we're talking about a lot. Any other public comments? Okay. Okay, moving on to old business. First item is our accounting firm is with us this evening to help answer any questions on our 23 audit, which we received some 6
9
months
months
ago.
ago.
Yeah, okay. Martin, I'll leave it up to you.
Good evening. This is Bonnie Dow from Mudgett. Bonnie, the floor is yours.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
For those of you that don't know me, my name's Bonnie Dow. I'm an audit manager at Mudgett, Jennett and Krogh-Wisner, and I was the lead auditor on the town's audit this year. I believe Martin gave you all a copy of the final audit package that has the financial statements and the audit opinions in it.
Yes, he
This
did.
year, I'm sorry, what was that?
Yes, he did.
Okay. This year, the audit package did include a third additional opinion. The first opinion, audit opinion, starts on page 1. That's our normal audit opinion on your financial statements. Our report was unmodified, and that basically just means that the financial statements are fairly presented. We didn't find anything materially misstated or anything major that we had to correct or could not correct. The second audit report that's included in that package is on page 32, and that's a report on the internal control over financial reporting. That report didn't identify any material weaknesses in your internal control system, similar to prior years that we've worked with Martin on. I don't think we've had any findings really in recent years that need to be addressed and corrected. The third report is on page 34, and that one is the one that's new this year. Because you received a significant amount of ARPA funding, you spent more than the threshold amount to require an audit of your federal expenditures, your grant programs. So that third report is specifically for the major federal program that we tested and the internal control over your compliance with that grant document and the schedule itself that lists the federal expenditures, which is way in the back of the whole package. We didn't identify any non-compliance with the grant program. We didn't identify any material weaknesses in the controls over your reporting for that program. And the schedule itself was fairly presented. You pretty much only had the ARPA program. You only had a couple of other minor programs, and I wouldn't anticipate you guys needing an audit of this nature again in the future unless you get some significant funding from another federal source. The overall, your financial statements are pretty basic. There aren't any huge matters to point out or any huge items that were unusual this year. None of your funds reported any deficits at the end of the year. The general fund's fund balance decreased for the year, which I know Martin questioned me on when he first saw the draft because he expected it to go up because of the significant amount of ARPA money that you spent. The reason, and I'm sure you guys might also have this question, so I figured I would cover this one up front. The reason that it did decrease is because the year before, in fiscal year 22, you received a significant amount of bond funding for the Three Corners project that was in the general fund. During FY23, that remaining funding that had not been spent was transferred to the project fund, which was about $1 million. And then your ARPA funding that had been recorded in the ARPA fund came into the general fund for about $1 million. So they kind of offset each other when you're looking at just FY23. From year to year, looking at your ending fund balances in 22 compared to 23, there's a big shift between what was classified as restricted because it was bond funding that had to be spent and the unassigned amount at the end of this year. So your unassigned fund balance, where the increase that Martin was expecting to see at the end of 22, that unassigned amount was at $135,000. At the end of 23, it's just over 1.1 million. And that's where you see the big shift because the ARPA funding came in and you guys chose to use it for funding wages and salaries and benefits during the year. Did anybody else have any other questions they'd like me to cover?
I just want to kind of continue that discussion for a minute.
Yep, sure.
So I'm on page 6, and it looks like our general fund balance was 1.195 million at the end of the year. So that's the surplus that's I guess available in the general fund. And what I'm trying to figure out is how much of that is ARPA money and how much of it is just normal surplus that we would have had at the end of the year.
You're looking at page 6.
Yeah, the last sentence of page 6.
Okay. Probably a better visual representation of that would be on page 11. Your general fund is showing an unassigned amount of 1,150,000.
Yeah. So we would consider that the ARPA surplus.
At the beginning of the year, you had 135,000 that was unassigned.
Right.
So
we transferred that
the
into
majority of that amount would be from ARPA. I'm just trying to find the transfer amount that came in. 1,046,426 dollars. If you look at page 14, the column that's labeled Special Revenue Fund is where the ARPA funds had been, and they were transferred out. That top line that says transfers in out. The 1,046,000 is what came in from ARPA to cover the wages. So I would say that amount is the amount of fund balance that was driven by the ARPA funding that you spent on the wages.
Okay, and then the other 150,000 or so is just normal surplus.
Yeah, normal budgetary savings or underspending or from last year that rolled over.
Okay. And,
Yeah.
and this may not be a question you can answer, but now what do we do with the ARPA money? Can we now move it to a different fund?
Yes. As far as the federal program compliance requirements are concerned, you've met your requirements. You've spent the ARPA money. You guys voted as a select board to choose to take the option to cover wages with it. So
Okay.
there won't be any future reporting to the feds on how you're spending the ARPA money because you've already spent it. That amount that's now sitting in your unassigned fund balance, the voters could vote to create a separate reserve fund for a specific purpose. You could choose to use it in lieu of obtaining debt to do a project that's kind of been put on hold because you didn't have the funding. There aren't really any restrictions on what you can do with it, as long as you follow the right channels to approve using the prior fund balance for a specific purpose.
Okay, but I think what I heard you say in there was that you would have to go to basically a vote at town meeting so that we can move it to where we want it, or can the select board move that independently?
In order to commit it, when you look at if you look at page 11 again, there's 4 different types of fund balance that you report. If you want it to be in that committed level where the voters have committed it to a specific thing, the voters would have to vote on it. If the select board just earmarked a piece of it for a project, it would show up on a different line called assigned, which right now you guys don't have any assigned fund balances that the board has earmarked anything for. The select board could make a motion to set aside a certain amount and it would be labeled as assigned fund balance. And then at town meeting or as projects come up and the voters choose to use it for something else, you could have them vote and reclassify what type it is. I'd recommend doing one or the other so it's not a huge number sitting in your unassigned balance that when people take a first glance at it, they wonder how you've built up $1 million.
Yeah.
Because normally your fund balance, at least a portion gets rolled into future budgets to kind of offset your tax increases, so.
Okay, so I just want to check, see if I heard this correctly.
Yep.
The select board could, on our own, move it to an assigned project fund, one or more assigned projects. So
Correct.
Without a town vote.
Right.
Okay.
Or we could use it in our future budget to reduce taxes.
Yep. I mean, right now, you're going to be building your FY25 budget. You could throw in a number in there for anticipated fund balance carryover to be used to offset expenses in the future budget. I have some towns that are using that ARPA money to kind of supplement their budgets the next 3 to 5 years, depending on how much money they had received. Others have earmarked the whole thing because they have a huge building rehab that they want to do for their town office or a water project or something else.
We have publicly stated the direction we plan to use those funds. I'll repeat, the box culvert in Jennettville, the Cucci Road study, Damon Hall upgrades, and the rec center upgrades. I think were the four that whose origin went all the way back to the ARPA committee. So I think we're okay then.
Yeah, I think we're okay. I think at some point, we've just got to check the box and say, all right, here's the price tag for Jennettville. We vote to move
This amount
to an assigned fund for Jennettville. Right, so on and so forth.
Right. So, okay. So,
All right, well, that was the first question.
Okay. What other questions did you have?
I think they get easier as we go on. So this is an educational question. As I'm looking through the report, I keep seeing kind of the phrase net pension liability. And my question is, does the town have a future pension liability that we need to worry about that's unfunded?
The town participates in the Vermont Municipal Employee Retirement Program, if I spelled out that acronym completely correctly. So those amounts, the net pension liability, there's also a deferred inflow and a deferred outflow shown on that same page that relate to the VEMR's balances for retirement of your employees. Those numbers are all calculated by an actuary that the state hires for the entire plan as a whole. And based on who you have for employees that participate and how funded or how their contributions have been funded through the plan, they allocate the percentage that's allocable of the whole plan's liability to each participating town. In the footnotes to the financial statements, there's a very big, long, lengthy footnote about the VEMR's retirement plan. It starts on page 29. Footnote number 9. There's no huge liability that your town's going to have to shell out all at once to pay for someone to retire. But as your employees age and retire, you'll hire new employees who then contribute. And every year they recalculate and do the actuarial calculation to estimate how much of the whole plan is attributable to your town. Each year, what you do pay is the contributions based on each person's payroll. So monthly, or Martin can answer this better than I, either weekly, semi-weekly, monthly, you contribute the contributions to the VEMR's as you process payroll throughout the year, and you reconcile with them quarterly to make sure that you've contributed the right amounts. There aren't ever any additional contributions that they mail you a bill for, even when you
for us to set aside any money for the future.
No. And that footnote is very long and throws a lot of information at you at once, but the numbers are all derived from the state's plan itself because you participate in it. And that's why they're only shown on those front couple of statements. They're not included in your fund statements because there's no specific fund that's gonna owe that in the future.
I got one left. Anybody else want to take a turn? Okay.
Yeah, well,
All right, so my last question is a two-part question. It's on
Okay.
page 24. It's item 2, middle paragraph. As of June 30th, we had about 558,000 that was not in an insured account out of about 5 million in bank balance.
Okay,
And the two-part question is, do we need to do anything to insure that money? And do our bank statements come out to that $5 million, or did they on June 30th?
on June 30th, all of your bank statements, bank balances added together equaled that 5 million.
Okay,
Trying to open your actual audit files so I can get you a concrete answer on what the 558 is. The The 558,000 is all related to the bond money that you received from the bond bank that they put in a bank account in the town of Hartland's name, held at US Bank.
okay. we spent that
FDIC
money.
Yeah, FDIC insurance only covers $250,000 of that, and they don't offer collateralization agreements because their mindset is that you also have the debt. If that bank was to fail, you don't have to repay the loan, and you're not going to get your money that you had held with them because they offset each other.
Okay,
So there is nothing that you would need to do to correct that. That sentence itself isn't really pointing out something that's a risk because it's held at a bank where you also have debt held with them.
all right, great,
All
thank you. We spent the money, so I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, and now you've spent the money, so I would expect next year's footnote to indicate that you're fully insured.
Great,
All of the
thank you.
rest of your bank accounts are held at one bank, and there is a collateralization agreement, like sweep arrangement set up with them to make sure that your balances over the $250,000 insurance limit are covered.
I'm sorry.
I think we're set.
Bonnie, thank you so much for your time tonight.
You're welcome. It's
Have a
been a
good-
pleasure to work with Martin. He always does a great job, and we don't usually have too many audit adjustments. It's a nice, smooth audit, and we like that. So it's nice to meet you all tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next year.
All right, Thank you
Great,
so
thank
much,
you.
Bonnie.
Thank you.
Martin.
Welcome.
Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item, policing in Hartland. I believe our last meeting, we accepted the report that the Safety and Policing Committee had done for us. I'm not sure there's a date on it. And we briefly discussed that, and Mandy led the charge with the overview. I would want to just step back to say a quick thank you to all members of the committee, and appreciate that. And I understand that you'll be waiting in the wings for a review status as we go forward on that part. What I'd like to do tonight is have a brief discussion on some next steps. I will start the discussion by suggesting that we use Tom Yenroll as a consultant to work with us on this to essentially flush out the reports to make sure that we understand what the requirements are that emerge from that time period. To come back to the select board with that outline. And then we would have an additional discussion to sort of say, yes, this is what we want to go shopping for as far as safety and policing are concerned. I would then ask Tom to contact each of the surrounding police departments, even though it's maybe a long shot for some of them to do policing for Hartland. But just to get their feedback and possibly get a price and some scenarios as to how they would meet the needs. And once that's done, come back to the board with that information for discussion and hopefully a clear decision on our part of what the budget allocation would be going forward into this next year. Mandy has expressed interest in working with Tom, and so that's a starting point. So I do appreciate your thoughts on that.
I think it's a fine strategy.
We just have to move quickly.
Yeah, I agree, and you know, we have some booked meetings already with the budget, but I will, I was in contact with Tom. Martin and I met with him briefly, so he's aware that this may be coming his way on that part. Hopefully you would have some time.
Yeah.
Maybe I just ask a question. So, you know, part of what we've got to do is come up with a solution and build it into the next year's budget, right?
Right.
But are we also going to do something in the interim, say with sheriff or anyone else, just to, you know, increase police presence until we get to July 1?
I think that would be,
No, go ahead.
I think it'd be dependent on what we can afford, what we have in our budget.
And where we are at, who's available to, I think, Jim, I think we've been doing a little bit of that.
Yeah.
With, to Martin's credit, being able to use the county sheriff, and it's been a trial run for all of us as we do that. But,
And I think if there's enough room in the budget for this year, I think it would be good to continue that process
Yeah.
until.
I reached
we have a more
out
permanent
to
solution.
Ms. Franks in Windsor and asked her to send me a
Chief Frank.
contract, Chief Frank,
Yep.
and send me their contract
Mhm.
and see if we could put some time together over the next few months.
Yep.
She obviously had to meet with her peers.
Yeah.
And, she hasn't got back to me yet, but I'm hoping to add them into the mix also, so we can kind of, over the next 6 months, feel out both, the sheriffs have done an absolutely amazing job.
Yeah.
So far, and,
Yeah, prior to this meeting, I had a meeting in West Windsor, and the sheriff's department pulled somebody over right in front of Tancredi's on that
Yeah.
flat. We said they
He's
were
been
screaming
complaining.
by.
Yeah, he's been saying that.
it was a plant.
But I have to say, those lights are absolutely blinding if you're coming the other way.
It's, well, separate issue, but it's troublesome. They say it's the moth effect. It actually creates accidents.
Yeah, people look.
Drawn towards it.
Yeah.
So anyways,
No.
yeah. we do that.
Okay, so if we're in agreement, then I don't think we need any action, just to.
So no motion required, you just,
I think we'll just get going. I mean, I think we've accepted the report.
yeah.
I'm not sure we had a motion for that, but do we need a motion?
I don't think so. I would
You know,
would, they would
but-
have action.
I think as we go out, it might be helpful to just today to give an idea of how many hours of service we might want, because everyone is gonna ask that. There's a big difference
We
between,
have that in the report.
so we're gonna go by, we were somewhat vague in the report.
Well, I thought that was a starting point. And Tom, that's exactly what I think is the first step, is to
Okay.
take the report and to find out what's vague and what's not. Okay.
Yeah, I think we said 30 to 40 hours of patrol time in Heartland and
Right.
reassess it
Per
one
week.
year,
Yeah,
a week.
per week. Yeah,
okay,
Thank you.
yeah, that wasn't clear.
yeah, great.
No, that's
That's good.
kind of good, because I kind of budgeted for 40 hours a week. so.
Yep, and I looked at, you know, the West Windsor contract, and theirs was, I believe,
Yeah, I think it's
120,000
120, yeah.
for 20 hours a week, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Question, do we need to make a motion? I know you want to use Tom Yanner, do we need to make kind of a general motion to say that we're gonna, you know, the town is gonna use Tom Yanner for consulting services as needed?
where would we do that?
I mean, we could do it now. Because, you know, it's not necessarily a budgeted expense, so we probably do need to.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you do that in the executive session?
I wanted to really, maybe as we exit the executive session, I think I want to lay out that what we're thinking.
So would there be an action after that, or will we table the action until the next meeting?
Um,
I only ask because we'll have to let these guys know if they need to stay.
Why don't we just say we're going to have action after we come out of the executive session?
Okay, right, because we are
And then we
talking
can
about
address the,
appointment of the,
the Tom Yemel stuff.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, then moving on, there are no comments. The North Hartland School charge. Just quick background, over the summer, we had vandalism to the schoolhouse on the roughly 1.5 acres in the North Hartland Park. Forget the name of the park, Courier, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I took a walk up there around it this past week, and it's a large building, maybe 50 feet long by 24 feet or something like that, maybe 30. But essentially, we are calling upon with this charge to formulate a group of people, including one select board member, as well as the recreation center director, to come together and review the state of that school and come up with some plans for moving forward. I would offer the help of Martin to open up the building and get doing that. I'm not suggesting that the committee come up with price tags, but that when they have ideas, that they work closely with Martin to formalize those ideas into costs and budgets. I would like to get your approval of this charge and then suggestion of who would like to be a volunteer on this committee.
I'll throw out one thought. What about including the library board member as part of that as well?
Sure.
Yeah. In addition or in lieu of one of the citizens.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if there's a library board member that lives in North Hartland. Yeah, okay. You do know that the previous child librarian, Amy, and I'm forgetting his last name, used some grant monies to look at programs for North Hartland. That's a great idea, Jim. I do have a community member that reached out to us, Kim Gibbs, and I just wrote back to her whatever day I finished this last week, and have not heard back, but she had expressed interest in doing that, and had a list of questions of how to get started.
The only thing you've got of the remaining one-room schoolhouses, that was not a one-room schoolhouse. It was a one-room addition to create room enough for the North Hartland School to continue to be a school.
And where was the actual school?
Right in front of it.
Oh, so
big-
physically that's gone.
Yeah,
Okay.
that went out after the new school was built. That was dismantled, and I don't know whether that's, I know Route School ended up at Fred Coley's. I don't think that one did, but when they had to add the rooms on the rec center and the Four Corners, they needed room in North Hartland, so they built the one-room building.
Okay.
So it's not, historically, it's a 1955 creature.
You know, it doesn't have that charm as I walked around it.
Not old enough to be historic, but old enough to have a specimen.
And the facilities are in good shape there, the tennis courts and the swing set. Okay, so again, I'm grappling to see if any of you will step forward as a member. If you want to think about it, you can, and then I'll twist your arm privately. Okay, are people comfortable with the charge? So we can actually get going. I guess I would entertain a motion for this, just to make sure that we,
I'll make a motion that we move forward with a North Hartland School Committee charge and start that
I'll second it.
analysis.
thank you, Mandy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you, everyone. I'd like to give a brief update on the town manager search. We are in actually phase 2 of the search. Phase 1 included, we had quite a decent pool of candidates. We reviewed all of them, all of the resumes, and we brought in 5 candidates, of which 3 we invited back for a second interview. Contractually, we were finalizing a contract with the lead candidate when unfortunately we got a call where the candidate removed themselves from the search. We have restarted the search, a new search using municipal management services. To date, there are about 11 or 12 resumes that have come in, still early. And we're optimistic that we can get a good candidate. I appreciate the work that the staff did as part of some of the committees, and obviously my colleagues on the board. We spent a lot of time with resumes and contracts and the like. So I'm extremely disappointed that we didn't get a candidate, but I think we're doing the right thing to move forward and expand our search. Any questions? Okay, going on to new business, 17 Acre Woods. 17 Acre Woods is a parcel of land adjacent to the school, surrounded by Martinsville Road. The school, we have school representatives here.
We have 2.
So tonight there's a discussion of their potential plans. As people, I hope know, there's been an outdoor classroom that's been used for quite a number of years. The Conservation Commission, the school, with a little help from the select board, recently entered into a contract to create a handicap accessible path down to the area, and I say down because there's a drop, as well as a boardwalk. So I'll stop and turn it over to Lindsay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Are you able to hear me all right? Wonderful. What I thought might make the most sense is to give a little background, and Lauren, chime in. How many years, it predates me starting at Hartland, how many years would you say that outdoor classroom has really been in existence at Hartland Elementary School?
I don't know.
Lauren, you're talking, but we can't hear you, unfortunately.
She's asking.
Would it be safe for me to say, Lauren, that it's been a good number of years? Okay, so all right, we can get back to you with the exact number, but a good number of years, the Hartland Elementary School has utilized that outdoor classroom space. And I'm wondering, yeah, I'm not sure. So we, our children are out there often, especially during COVID, where being outside was definitely preferred over having large groups of people inside of buildings. And over the last few years, the outdoor space that we've had down there has deteriorated. And I'll show a picture in a moment. After the last storm this last winter, the lean-to that we had has kind of collapsed. And as long as I can share this screen okay, let me just make sure. Are you all able to see that okay? Okay. The top.
I'm gonna circulate a picture as well at the same time.
Okay, thank you. The top image right there is after it fell has kind of come down a little ways, is not super usable for staff or students. So, and in the Hartland Elementary School budget, it started, I'm working with our school board in trying to think about a potential new playground. And I use this story because it has kind of, I've given me some ideas for what we might be able to do with this 17-acre woods idea. So I have been looking for grants to help offset a cost for a new playground, because the cost of a new playground is a bit pricey. So in my search for some grants, I had a conversation with Martin, and he forwarded me along the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources. And I got in touch with them and had a little bit of back and forth with them around if a playground would be something that would fit the bill for that type of a grant. That, in terms of our specific playground, we're still determining, but they had in their descriptions of one of the tracks they have is an outdoor equity track. And then as I kept thinking about that, it seemed like this potential idea could really fit the bill for what this grant may be calling for. So our hope in coming to you tonight is to think about something potentially similar to the image below, something where our students could go, something that the bottom is a really nice organizational piece for students if they have binders, bags, things like that, that they need to put when they go into the outdoor classroom, especially when we have got it accessible for all of our students, which is the wonderful work that Timber and Stone is doing right now. So our hope is something along those lines. And in conversation with Jennifer Waite, she had brought up the idea of also something potentially that could be closed, where if we have materials that need to be stored or locked, that some companies could potentially have, and I'll see if I can find the other picture idea that we were thinking about, something along this bottom line or so, something that could be closed to be able to use. So that would be the inspiration hope. We haven't gone any further steps at this point because we wanted to have your thoughts and opinions on this matter before we explore some grant opportunities. And then.
Lindsay, I think the previous board, of which I was a member, showed positive support by contributing, as I said, a small amount to the cost of the trail work that's being done today, the access work. But I think, as we said at the last meeting, that possibly all we can do tonight is express our intent to support you, but until we actually see what the structure is, I don't, and you do the homework as to whether or not you can actually build down there. I think we're a little limited by what we can do tonight. But I'll like to hear from my colleagues what the general thoughts are.
I just want to ask a question. Lindsay, is it one structure or is it more than one structure?
Ideally, we'd be thinking more along the lines of two potential structures. One that is more of like that lean-to type idea, and the other is more of something that could close.
Okay. And I mean, looking at those, I wouldn't So the agreement that we have in place today says no permanent structures. Is that correct? Doesn't seem like those types of structures would be considered permanent anyway, right?
You know, and again, that's part of, Jim, what you're touching on my concerns. Are these on concrete blocks that are brought down and then just post on blocks, or are there sonotubes or somehow is, you know, is there a foundation of some sort? Good question.
So, I mean, hypothetically, it seems like a good idea, right? I think the agreement as written probably covers us. Maybe we need to do an amendment, maybe not.
It looks like a pole.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a shed roof with 4x4s and, you know, and
Well,
I don't know what they're thinking of doing.
they do need storage. I mean, there's chairs and boxes down there now. They're just out in the weather and looking rather
Sad.
weather beaten, in that part. So again, I think, I personally am very excited to see the students in an outdoor classroom setting. I think that's very, very valuable, and we know the school has received kudos for doing that, and surrounding schools are doing the same thing. So, yeah, I say go for it, but we'll have final approval once we know what's involved.
So Lindsay, I work with a regional planning agency, and I think you already know this, but the 15th of December is the deadline, and I believe for this part, there's a meeting tomorrow at 7 o'clock for the outdoor equity track that A&R has. So I don't know if you know that, but I just got an email this afternoon on this.
I did too. Are you on the listserv? I had gotten that email this afternoon. Unfortunately, we have a school board meeting tomorrow night, so I will not be able to make it, but I did see that email today.
Yeah.
Would the board feel comfortable if I pursued grant opportunities, and then if grant monies become available, can come back to the select board with something when there's something concrete before making any further next steps?
Sure, and I guess that question from Martin, I don't know the answer to from a technicality. Who would own the structure if it's on town land? Is it a school structure or a town structure? And so from a grant perspective, whose name would be on the grant as well?
So the way these usually work is it would be in their name. We would be the owner of the property. You're probably going to have to get a letter of support from us, though, with your application.
Then I would make a motion.
As a property owner.
That would make a motion that the select board, as a property owner of 17-acre woods, issue a letter of support for the grants to build structures in 17-acre woods.
So they have a month. Can we get a little more information before we make that letter of support, see what they're doing? I mean, I have no idea really what's going on here.
Yeah.
Is it permanent? Is it not permanent? How big are they?
And do we gotta change the structure of the document we have now?
Well, I think that's pretty easy, right?
Right, just putting everything on the table.
I think it's a great idea, but just need a little more information.
So could we just ask for a motion that has intent to support the possibility?
I'm fine with it. Does anybody have any significant reservations?
No.
But we can put on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah.
If there's more information, we can make a motion at that point.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Lindsay, could I, just as a word of caution, I took a walk down there Sunday morning. There's an awful lot of widowmaker trees in the area along the path as well as down there. So I don't know if you're able to, but you may want to get a forestry type person down there to, if you're doing this kind of building, to really make it as safe as possible.
Absolutely. I'll check in with Jennifer Waite. She's really been spearheading a lot of this process as well. So I will check in with her and have a conversation.
And is Jennifer doing this work as part of the Conservation Commission?
I believe so. A lot of this work was the hefty meat of this work was done prior to me starting
Yeah.
as one of the administrators at Hartland Elementary School. So I do believe so. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, technicality. I admit I screwed up there before. Can we adjust the agenda to let Kevin go next? The following, the other items don't require.
Yeah.
So, no, go stop smiling.
Somebody asked earlier.
It's always so.
And Mandy, do you want to say too?
No, no. I think it's something like that.
Okay. My brain is affected by all these stitches in my body. Okay, Mr. Geiger, you are on.
Thanks, Phil. We're just looking for the town to write a letter of support, which we can help you with if you so move to do that, for something called the Thriving Communities Program, which is something put out by the U.S. Department of Transportation. It is due the end of the month to them. And it's really the Department of Transportation kind of realizing that other things play into transportation. So land use and equity and connection to the other things in town and economic development. It's in some ways, to me, it's really just planning, like good planning. You know, as Tom would know, you kind of people are like, we should make the land use and the transportation go together. And you go, yeah, planning. The DOT seems to be getting on board there. It would fund, if we got the thing, if there's only going to be 5 fundings around the nation, so it's pretty competitive. But we are going in with our counterpart in New Hampshire. And if we got it, it would fund a person for 3 years to basically do capacity around transportation related stuff. So to help get ready to go for grants, to look at projects, to look at land use and transportation, to look at talking with economic development folks, to having, doing peer learning out there, to doing educational stuff and organizational capacity. There is no funding match from the town, so we're not asking you for any money, which is always nice. And there is a requirement that some of the money pass directly through to the towns. And we can't do, for a variety of reasons, we can't do this for all of our towns because you have to meet certain parameters, but there's about maybe 8 or so towns in our region that we think will make the cut.
Are we one of them?
You are one of them. That's why I'm here. Yes. You show up on their screen as transportation disadvantaged.
So how do we respond? Do we need a motion, Kevin,
Can you do a little drafty thing for us and then we'll just mark it from there? Is anybody in your office able to do that?
Yeah, I'll be doing that with the various towns that I'm working with.
Yeah.
And so if I just wanted to make sure that the select board is okay with us working with Phil or whoever to get a letter in.
I think it's just.
I make a motion that we write a letter of support to the supporting Two Rivers application to the
Thriving Communities.
Thriving Communities Program.
I'll second it.
Second, thank you,
Can
Mandy.
you read my own writing?
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous, Kevin. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we'll be in touch very shortly.
Okay.
Good to see everybody.
Okay, I see Jay just arrived. The next item is a discussion of what budget categories that we have haven't thought of. We want to make sure we give feedback to Martin, but before we do that, should we entertain, should we have JD want to sort of just give an update as to why you're here tonight?
Well, I must say, you're making great progress tonight. I didn't think I would be on till 7:30.
Jay, can you just state your name for the?
Jim Ware, owner of Martinsville Library.
We can make it so you do come on at 7:30.
Did you wanna change that?
It could be 8:30. You're on.
All right. 11 years ago, the state of Vermont enacted legislation that would allow alternative energy producers to actually become small utilities themselves. That is, they could get customers. A lot of hoops to jump through. So they did that just to promote renewable energy in the state. And there's probably 25 of us today, 10 years, 11 years later. And so 10 years ago, I approached the town and I said, hey, listen, I've got power for sale. Are you interested? I said, typically people give a 10% discount if they're going to sell wholesale power, but I said, it's my own town. So I said, hey, I'll give you a 12% discount. Gordon Richardson was chair of the select board at the time. And he said, hey, can you do a little better? So I said, okay. And so I gave the town, because I live in it as an exemption, I gave the town a 16% discount on what they would have paid Green Mountain Power for their power. So the way that it works is that you have probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 meters that record what you use. Damon Hall, Rec Center, where else?
Four Corners Library.
Four Corners and a library. And so each meter, you get a bill every month. And the bill said you use X amount of kilowatt hours. And normally you would owe us X amount of money, but your bill is nothing because essentially Martinsville Hydro is trading power for money. So I take your bill and I just discount by 16%. So over 10 years, I think you've used $130,000 worth of electricity, but you've saved $21,800 because I gave you the discount. So the contract, 10-year contract, it's expiring next month. And I'm coming back in to say, hey, you have to sign another contract, but I can't do 16%. Inflation, repairs in the hydro, I said I can give you a 14% discount in the power. And that's what the purpose is.
So what are we paying per kilowatt? Do you know? What is it? Or it varies? Or-
It's completely dependent on what the Green Mountain rate is. Everybody's a little bit different. It varies throughout the state. The way that it's, whatever it is, it is. So I don't know what they charge you per kilowatt hour basis. If you have a demand, if you have a demand charge someplace, it's a little nasty to get out, but all you do is take your bill that you get on a particular meter, and they say, you would normally owe us $100. But Jay's traded electricity, and he only wants $84. That's all I can say.
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
know how, it's hard to do it any differently, but that's the way it is.
So there's no correlation between your production and what the discount is or anything like that?
And what they, yes, that's straight up, I mean, I think the program was created such that it's straight away, there's no hidden factors. The only thing that it's dependent on is the energy producer, who he wants to get for a discount. I would say almost everybody gives a 10% discount without exception. I don't know anybody that gives anything more than 10%.
Any other changes beyond that we need to worry about? It doesn't look like it from your summary.
No, that's really the only change I sent. I sent,
Yeah, we
a
have
letter, yeah.
this letter.
Yeah.
Yep, and they get the
Just a couple,
contract.
just a signature, that's it. But the agreement was, I can't even remember what, well, I shouldn't say that. There was a lawyer whose specialty was writing agreements. So I hired them, and it came back, and under the select board, when Gordon was chair, we reviewed it, and so I just copied it except for date changes. Added in a phone number and a percentage rate. Other than that, it's identical language. And by the way, and just if you're curious, Hartland is 12% of my output. That's it. 20-odd% goes to the elementary school, and the rest goes to Windsor for their fire department, town offices, and waste treatment plant. So those are, that's where all our town goes.
And how much you generate annually? Roughly?
About 800,000 kilowatt hours. A normal house might use, I don't know, 4,000 or so a year, so you can figure it out. But I always thought the fun part was, the kids from the elementary school, they would come by from a tour, and I'd say, oh yeah, this is where electricity comes from, it's the water rolls down the brook. And it was, I think that's, again, that was the creators of the rule to say, hey, wait a minute, you know, like, hey, keep things local. It's been a very successful program.
Jay, you mentioned that the dam suffered some major destruction. You know, I guess with this summer's rains, was that the?
Oh, yeah, it was very, we had more rain than Irene. And most of all the hydro plants had some trouble, with one problem. The typical one is reservoirs are filled in.
Or the dams, yeah.
Yeah, or their machinery went underwater. And so people were putting it back together. I think I'm finally back together. It's been 3 months.
So if I read the sentence correctly, you've actually made the changes?
Well, when a piece of equipment goes, usually you can't buy old equipment, so you buy new equipment, and that just scales it all up, so that guarantees that you can run. If I don't run and I don't make power, you don't save money. So it's in everybody's interest to have a plant that operates as it should.
Okay, we have it as a discussion item tonight. Are there any other questions for Jay? I did not yet dive into the contract, and I would.
But this is the copy of the old contract.
No, actually, what I did was, for Martin, I took the original contract and I made a note in my letter of only the 4 things that are changed in this. And so solely, the sole changes are what I said: 1 telephone number, 2 dates, and the change of discount. Other than that, everything else is the same.
But I guess, do we have a copy of the new
Yes,
contract?
yes.
But it's not here. This is.
Actually, I have it here. I'm happy to leave it with you.
And then I think we should just have our legal team kind of review it as a matter of operation.
Okay. Yeah, Martin does have a copy of it.
Okay,
He
yeah,
does
that's
have a copy.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay. Jay, any other questions, thoughts, things we should be thinking about?
No, well, only one thing you should think about is the very last page of the contract specifies the meters that you wanted to discount. And so I don't know if you want to change that. You know, if you have somebody else, there was a question about about the Four Corners School, do they want to pay their own bill? Or that. So I would only suggest that you look back at what meters you had told me that need to be supplied power, because what has to happen is I have to inform Green Mountain Power so they know how to alter their bill to send to you. But that's the only thing I can think of.
If you look at the orders, I think there's a Green Mountain Power bill in there for all the meters that aren't covered, like North Hartland Lights, the Martin Memorial Building, a few others are in the orders I believe. So I mean, it is a good question. If we decided to include other meters in, do you have the capacity?
Okay, well, probably not. I mean, I'm fully subscribed, and people are always, I could sell power to Mike's store. It's limitless, who can buy the power. In your case, it might be a matter of just taking the same number and divvying it up to a different meter or something like that. I don't know. There may be a little wiggle room, but not a lot of wiggle room. So if you find somebody that wants something, the only thing I should add also is the utility does not want anybody to buy less than 1% of the power. So if you came to me and you said, gee, I want to take this meter, but it's only 0.75% of my output, it won't happen. So just bear that in mind. I can't divvy it into really small.
So streetlights on our existing meter.
Yes. Yeah, they're not under this.
You might know that street lighting is very expensive.
Yes, that's why I just asked them.
Yeah.
Jay, we're looking at, in our packets tonight without any action, just the information, a large solar array in town. And often the complaint that comes back to us is that the grid is saturated, eliminating the possibility of smaller an array in my backyard. Does your output affect that equation at all?
It's really more a matter of utility safety protocol. So what happens is when they put in the station down off the Ferry Road, because this, back up, solar comes on with a bang when the sun comes up, and it goes off when the sun goes down. And so what happens is if there's a grid problem, normally I would immediately go out of service as a safety protocol. But what happens is if solar is on, it creates an islanding effect, and my equipment doesn't know got to turn off. So what the utility makes solar folks do is to put in safety equipment. And I think it costs the folks on the Ferry Road maybe $50,000 to put a safety terminal on my project. So there's all these little costs along the way that are affected. The other thing is that really the circuits for Hartland are isolated, and they really don't run so much into North Hartland. If you remember, there was, I think, a 2 megawatt project that wanted to go in there, a 5 megawatt project. Right. So you get into a lot of little problems. I'm only about 300 kilowatts, so not in the megawatt range. But you'll find that you'll run into those kind of problems.
Okay.
It can be very area specific as well,
Exactly.
where the transmission, or for us, we had to rebuild the sub-test station.
Yeah, right. And of course, they all need 3-phase power, so you're not gonna come on and Reed Road and put a 500 kilowatt station. So it's, you gotta look ahead and plan to know what happens with planning with the utility, with it puts on in town.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think you already answered the question, but it looks like there are 2 phases of the our biggest use is the town garage.
Okay.
For Green Mountain Power, they're about 700 a month, maybe a little more.
Okay.
But capacity you have, or just don't have any capacity.
Yeah, but you may want to switch something else out. I don't know, but I guess you probably should look at on the meter to see what type of power it uses. Is it more expensive power? It's not residential, which is a lower rate. So you may want to just do a little investigation. I'm happy to help you if you need to figure that out. Could find you a little bit more.
Okay, thank you for coming by.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
okay, back to new business item 2. It's budget season. And Martin would like us, and he'll start the process to identify project areas which were not in this year's budget that we should be thinking about for the next year. The easy one for me is the intersection lights as an example of what we're talking about here. So this is put on your how to spend money caps, and we're not going to worry about the amounts right now, but we just need to identify what's out there.
Right. There was, the budget presentation happened last year. There was a future projects list, mostly around roads and culverts, things like that. Should we look at that?
Yeah, do you have that, Martin?
Let me look for it. I think it was on the spreadsheet, but let me take a look before I say yes. If I find it, I'll email it out to
Yeah,
you.
I don't think any of them were prioritized by when they needed to happen, but an example would be, we're doing the Jennyville culvert at Kitty Brook this year. We already know that's gonna happen.
That's coming out of the ARPA funds.
Yeah, but Jennyville culvert at Densmore, which also had a big problem during the recent rains, was on that future project list, right?
Yeah.
So those kind of decisions, we may need to look at it and figure out if there's a way to prioritize.
So besides the culverts, I think that list also gave a paving priority, where to pave. And I'm very concerned that we thought we were really stretching it to the limit a couple of years ago when we went to $200,000 for paving. And what did the last?
So this paving project is supposed to be $260,000.
Yeah. So I really think we need to address that, because that's roughly a mile.
Yes, yeah, correct.
Okay.
Or 6/10. Brownsville was 6/10. It was 6/10 for 260.
And the colleagues on my left and right should be naming one quickly here.
I was just giving it time, policing against the obvious,
Have you written that down?
I
Yeah.
figured as much.
Yeah, what else did we have there, Phil? We had a couple others.
The bridge fixes potentially for North Hartland.
Yes, so Bridge 22. So let me back up. The state of Vermont has hired an engineering company to survey 8 bridges, 8 covered bridges in the state of Vermont. They started with our Bridge 22. They're looking at.
Martin, can you,
Yep.
which one's Bridge
The
22?
one.
Sorry.
That's-
The historical one, the second bridge. So they are measuring, looking all over, and they're gonna come up with a report of what you can add to make it stronger, maybe take more weight. How good the bridge is, the static, the static of it. Worst case scenario, we'll see that report at the end of next summer. Maybe sooner, but they have 8 bridges to do. I don't know what timeline they've given the state of Vermont to do this. The guy gave me 10 minutes of his time last Wednesday. We talked, because they did it last Wednesday and Thursday. We chatted about it, and I told him I would not say a timeline to the end of next summer. It's gonna be the safest timeline, but so hopefully the state will have some answers for us And I'm not sure. I've put it in my calendar to reach out to Mr. Bumps in December or January to see where the state stands with the 8 bridges that they're looking at.
Okay,
So we got bridges.
Martinsville as well, we don't really.
Yep.
We can just inking by that.
We talked about trying to do some drainage issues on the side of the building over here.
Yes. But that may tie in with the architect
Right.
working on this. Yep, absolutely, yes.
Still,
Yeah, that's the other one that I had, Martin, was the feedback on this building and the rec center.
I need to reach out to the architect. He had a family emergency last month. But I will reach out to him. The only issue with if we do anything out back here is we'd have to cut the trees down to the main. I believe they're on our property, but we'd have to cut those trees down. For just food for thought.
Well, we can find other shrubs or do.
Right, yeah, well, so that we plant it, yep, so,
Aesthetically put up a nice fence.
yes.
We have a lot going on with the library that's all very nebulous and soft. Should grants come through, we're looking at HVAC, and I think we had some HVAC monies stored away. But what else do we need there?
Sidewalk.
Absolutely correct. And I was, so library projects.
we ever thought about paving just the front of the library?
Yeah, we can,
At the very least,
Or at least put,
raise it up with hardback.
yeah, in the winter, it's tough sometimes walking.
Fix the drainage issue. So it's still,
Potholes and they fill up with water and then they get all icy.
just don't take out the new path and just.
Which sidewalk needs to be done? You're talking the walkway into the library?
into the library, yes.
Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a tripping hazard going into.
oh, yeah, it's
Oh, you know, in,
into the, from the parking lot into
yeah,
the
okay, but
library.
not the sidewalk, it's sidewalk. I suggest we have to replace the entire sidewalk to the library.
No, from the library parking lot. The short walk to get into the library, there's 10 or 12 panels there.
Yeah,
That's what should be replaced.
Yeah, that's in really rough shape. Yeah, I think buildings, the roads aspect, I think is important, and if we can find whatever list we had. Again, I think it's just costs have accelerated, so we need to affect that.
Right.
I can't think of anything else.
And on the lighting, food for thought, we're hoping to find a grant for it. We might not be able to. So that's gone. This is just food for thought, the capital project that we get the MTBE money from Irving Oil is sitting there. We could always, you'd have to warn an article at the town meeting that put aside that we can use money from that. And if grant money happened to show up for whatever odd reason next year, the grant money could go back to that fund. So it kind of wash, just a food for thought.
and are we gonna be able to have a fairly solid number by the end of budget time? So these lights,
I hope so.
It's a second project I'd like to talk about in executive session for general to do.
part of it is the debate,
What I've come to discover is if all, it's kind of like a round robin, you've got a piece, I've got a piece, Martin's got a piece, Shannon's got a piece, Manny's got a piece, and on and on and on. So and each time I get another piece, then someone sort of said, no, that's Tom's responsibility. I'm letting have it. So yeah, we don't have prices for solar. GMP is kind of like scratching their head saying, oh yeah, we do that, but we don't know who in our firm does it. So
right, I'm gonna get to that, you gotta remind me of that.
Okay. I'll send you an email.
did you push the sort button?
So So we're gonna have about I don't know, $1 million worth of ARPA money, which has been allocated, but we don't know how much is gonna be used for these different projects yet, right? So we don't know how much of that million is gonna be spent. It could, with money left over, right?
From that list we just made?
Well, not from that list, but from, what we agreed to as an engineering study,
Right,
feature
right.
of the buildings and the Jennett public, that's it. And that could be, in totality, well under $1 million. Right? And then we've got the 476 that I think you were referring to.
Yes, in the capital projects.
Reserve fund. So there's some money that's been kind of sitting idle for a while. And I think we just need to decide, what are the important projects next year? What goes into the budget and what comes out of the money that we already have.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I agree, and that's should be done as we approach that. We kicked around doing some sort of study of the cemeteries. Is that worth throwing into this as a?
I think the cost, if we use Bruce, the cost will be minimal. If we wanted to use him and have him organize that. I don't know what you want to do.
yeah, but I think stuff like that, you should put it into the budget, so it's voted on, it's an expense.
I think what we need to do is to look at the cemetery committee budget realistically.
Sure.
Because right now, it's basically a budget where you cut down one tree a year.
Well, that's where I was also leading, is our tree cutting budget.
That's it.
I don't know if we've dodged the emerald ash borer, but we do have a lot of dead trees on.
There's a lot of old maples.
Okay, Martin, anything else on that topic?
So the budget, I'm trying to keep it around 3%. The problem is at this point, it's at 6.5. If I add policing, $70 an hour for 40 hours for 52 weeks, it brings the budget up to 13.97%. So just keep that food for thought. It's not accurate, it's as ballpark as I can get at this point.
But are you including the 80,000 we already have budgeted?
No. So 0 policing dollars, we're at 6.5%.
To take away all of what,
Take everything out
okay,
except
So
the
what-
constable. The
so-
constable's still in there for
well, what do you have him?
$16,000.
All right, so I think it's hard to follow the numbers, I think we need to understand what goes into that 6.5% increase. Where the
The
big
budget as you see it without policing.
Yeah.
With no policing.
Yeah, but some categories have gone up significantly and some probably haven't. I think we need to kind of see those line items.
Okay, all right, we'll scratch that, erase that.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Okay, well, let's go on to the last new business item, which is the illegal burns.
Can I just ask a question? We had in the packet information about a solar array. Is there anything we can talk about? Is that?
That's going to be under correspondence.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, illegal burns. A few weeks ago, our fire department responded to a fire in town. That was, the owner did not have a permit. They were burning
Illegal items.
Questionable, yeah.
really illegal items, like propane tanks. The fire department responded. The owner acted in a very, very negative way, trying to stop the fire department from putting the fire out and spreading the fire. I'm not going to go into the detail, but I will say that this put our fire department at risk. Our neighbors were at risk. I believe the Hartford Fire Department was called. Chief Sanders called in the Vermont State Police and the Hartford Police.
Yes.
And what I'd like to do tonight is to, I'm going to offer a motion that we have Martin work with our attorney and draft a letter citing the violation and laying out what's going, and also have that same letter go to the property owner. So there's two recipients of this.
So I understand that citing who, I mean, it would be citing the property owner, right?
That's a legal point. I think it's actually the person burning on the property since they were the
So they're
resident
not-
on the,
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
on that part. So. So to keep the discussion short, I'm offering as a motion, as members of the Hartland community, we, the select board, are alarmed at the recent fire where the home occupant did not get a fire permit. The fire at this site put the fire department crew at great risk, required the help of surrounding town fire departments, as well as intervention by the Hartford and Vermont State Police. Accountability is an important part of the community. The select board recommends the town manager send a letter to the individual styled as a notice of violation, copying the landowner and describing and documenting the violation. There are suggestions from our lawyer as to how to do this, and I would leave that to Martin, the lawyer, to work out. So is there a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mandy. All in favor, say aye.
So if we, well, why aren't the police getting involved,
Yeah,
or have the police gotten involved in this? Seems as though this is more than just an illegal,
The police are involved,
okay.
yeah, and I'm upset enough where I feel like going public with this, but that's not appropriate.
No, I think that it's a gesture, but it's a gesture. And I'm hoping, something more serious than us writing a letter, because obviously, this person doesn't really
It's been repeated.
care.
We'll hope the landlord
So
fixes the problem.
we also have a burn ordinance,
Mhm.
Yes.
right?
I think so.
That has very minor penalties in it, financial penalties.
Right.
So do we need to look at the burn ordinance and
So you can't do that, you have to give them a warning, written warning first.
first offense?
First offense
But
and a
is
written
this
warning.
first offense or?
This is the first offense. First offense brought to our attention.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Then it may be worth looking at the burn policy at some point to see if it needs more to.
Need the enforcement.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Okay, Martin, town manager update.
All right, Three Corners project has been okayed for substantially completed, not finished on time. We decided that, everything that we asked them to have done on time was done properly. Knots came back last Wednesday and finished up the checklist. So at this point, I believe Knots is finished with the project. Green Mountain Power has, all the underground wires have been run. First Light has run all their underground wires. V.S.A and Comcast have not run theirs yet. So the Three Corners project at this point is in the utilities hands.
Is VTEL and Comcast committed to a date or?
They started out strong when the project was done, and then it's gotten crickets again. I gotta reach out to Rita tomorrow to find out when they're gonna do it, because they sounded like they were committed and ready, and then all of a sudden it's dropped, so. I will ask them. As I said earlier, our F-550, the motor, we lost the motor 2 weeks ago. It was out of warranty by 200 hours. Mileage, it was under warranty, hours it was not. Ford asked Lebanon Ford to pull the motor to look at it. They found piston number 4 was the piston that let go, and they would not cover it. Lebanon Ford quoted me just shy of $26,000 for a brand new motor, 3-year unlimited mileage. I reached out to a friend that has a diesel repair shop up in Fairleigh. He found a remanufactured motor, which is the block of a motor that they go through and make sure that it's all good. He's going to install that engine, that motor, for just shy of $17,000 with a 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty.
So it's the repair shop that's warranty.
No, the motor comes with a warranty. But he
Okay.
will, so he'll do the warranty work.
Okay.
Yeah, Jasper is the name of the remanufacturer that's been in business for a very long
Forever,
time.
yeah, big time in racing. So, Mark's hoping to have that back to us shortly after Thanksgiving. The motor is due him tomorrow. Mr. Dow says there's about 150 dogs that have not been registered at this point. If we sent all the dogs if we rounded up the dogs and took them to the Upper Valley Humane Society, it'd be just over $18,000 a day. If we rounded up the dogs and took them to doggy jail, it'd be about $18,000 a day.
For us to pay.
For us to pay. Mr. Dow has reached out to all of the people. We are having people come in and getting their dogs registered. As far as humanly possible, we're doing the best we possibly can. That's the best I got.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. The utility companies, as I said, are
Can I
sorry,
take
yeah,
it
go
back?
ahead.
Question on that. I noticed in the orders, there was a charge for the Humane Society.
It was a straight impound charge for like
Yes.
600 maybe.
So, there's 4 animals taken to the Upper Valley Humane Society. We've chosen as the board, that's where they go. So there's a cat that went from Clayville Road, they rehomed, and there was 3 other dogs that went and have gone back to their owners. So that's why the charge is in there. So yes, that's correct. The cat has been rehomed and the 3 dogs were found back to their owners.
Do the owners not pay for those charges?
They haven't.
I mean, I thought that was pretty typical, is that when they go to pick up their dog, they pay
They pay, yeah.
the fee,
The fee,
so
yeah.
that we don't
Don't,
incur
yeah,
that
I-
expense.
Yes, I don't know how they get their dogs back.
Yeah,
She
it might
said
be
they
worth
didn't have them.
just, yeah,
I'll reach out to Nikki,
I would just be curious because that
because
seems.
the
pretty
cat
high.
obviously
Yeah,
can't,
yeah,
because
yeah,
they
that's,
rehomed that one, right?
yeah, that one's a
Yeah.
bit different, but the ones, if they've
Yeah.
made their way back home, then, their owners would have to incur that fee, so
Yeah.
it should offset it for us.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to have the dog on their property, not
Right,
being picked up and taken to the Humane Society.
Right, exactly. As you heard, the walking path has been a huge hit. I've had many phone calls and emails. People are very happy with the walking path. Part of it washed out. Cody was kind enough to come back and he fixed it up. It's just waiting for the grass to take seed. We shouldn't have that problem anymore. So as soon as the grass and the earth gets back to normal, we should be all set. Clay Hill Road has been paved by Pike Industries. They will finish up the sides of the road and the ditching and along the edges and the curvature in the spring. I was surprised to get it in this year. I told you about the covered bridges in Vermont. Evan has given us his 2-week notice. Next Friday will be Evan's last day in the highway department.
Do we do exit interviews as twice, isn't it?
I did speak with him. He was kind enough to come talk to me, told Bill, came talk to me.
Okay.
BJ will be out middle of January through the end of February. He's having a medical event going on. I put the job out on Indeed. I've had 3 people, did 1 interview today already. So got a little bit more action quicker than we did this past summer. Next Wednesday through Friday, I'll be out. I'll be probably looking like Phil. Wednesday, I'll be out
Your
of
hair
here,
is gonna gray?
you know. That too, probably.
You'd have rather be in the.
Oh, yeah, I like the sound of that.
Anything else?
So after Wednesday, please don't hesitate to reach out if you need to. Bill will take over the reins as he did last time. Bill and I are wrapping up the FEMA sheet. He's getting me one more GPS, shot, and I got one more road to put into the spreadsheet, and, it will be submitted to FEMA. And I'm waiting for one small bill from, Twin States, so FEMA's paperwork will be pretty well up to date. We got till November 25th or 24th or something like that, so.
What kind of numbers are we up to with that?
It's really surprising. I haven't done Reeves Road. That's the biggest one, but I'm only at about like 75,000. So it's turned out for everything except Reeves Road.
But you like contractors and materials?
Yes, yep.
Oh,
It seems like we see more.
yeah, it seems like
invoices
when
than-
we're looking at the
Yeah,
warrants, there's a
yeah.
lot more.
But like I said, I gotta go back and double check it, but I have each road sectioned out and the contractors and the material. Reeves Road's the biggest one. So I got 200 tons on Jennyville Road of material, so.
Okay, we have a number of pieces of correspondence. We have the solar, notice of the solar array. There's a piece that I've lost right now. What's the other one?
Cemetery committee.
We got cemetery committee and we got the energy committee.
The energy committee and in the bike survey. I'll knock off the bike survey very quickly. As you know, the select board chair and the planning commission were asked to do this, and maybe, was it the planning commission or the regional planning commission? So I completed the survey recently and it's off. You know, V-Trans now has it. Let me keep the energy committee until the end. I think we have an informational piece on a large solar array up on Adams Hill Road. I don't think there's any action. I think we are, what is the technical term?
For statutory purposes.
Statutory party, thank you.
Does this go through Act 250?
248.
There's quite a bit of information in that handout. I don't have much to say about it.
Do we need an opinion on this for the process, or?
We do if we don't want to support it.
I guess is there
The
a
other
reason?
thing is where the planning commission is on this, where the regional planning commission is on
And I have not heard, I know the land butters, who are some of my neighbors, have been contacted, but I haven't heard of any official take on the items. Tom, are you in a position just to ask what?
it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these things is always the aesthetic consideration and how it impacts the neighbors. This photograph here is useless.
Yeah, there's a paragraph in there saying it's on the uphill side of the road, it's on the
Right.
side of an old riding rink.
Oh, is this the old, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
if you're going in opposite, if you
it's the opposite
are
side of the
going
road.
from north to south and you come on the property, the indoor riding rink is, it's still there, it's on your left and on the upper side,
Okay.
that's where it's
Yep,
going.
yep, that old riding, there was a riding rink.
Riding rink there, gravel, and I
Yep,
think that's what
Yep.
depicted in the picture.
Yep.
But it's big, my comments to Jay about the saturation of the power lines, the ability of Green Mountain Power to absorb this much could affect other smaller solar arrays. There's none on the docket that I'm aware of, so this could be a good thing. I don't know if there's a chance for the community to buy into it, but much like it's not a family farm. Okay, so that's information. Someone want to lead us through the cemetery request? I'm out of my way on that one.
So, Nancy Brogdon, whose husband Bill died a number of years ago, they used to live up off the Cream Pot. And she has been trying literally for years to see if she can get space at the cemetery that's because I'm not sure if everybody knows the names of the cemetery. Basically, the one that's up on the top of Weed Road. And she just keeps asking what the status is.
Yeah.
So I think it's time we do something about this. I think it's very sad that people have a loved one, they just want to bury that person. And we're not saying yes or no. So either we're gonna say, no, we're not doing this, sorry. Or if we are gonna say yes, then I think we just need to really do it. Because I don't think it's that difficult.
Well, I think partially that's why I was asking, should we include an upgrade in the budget? You were asking for the cemetery committee, so that we can get going on some of this planning.
Right. Just to remind everyone, we talked about we would do like a pilot.
Could this
We
be the
pick-
pilot?
Maybe we could do this
One
as a pilot.
considering-
It's a large cemetery, and I think there's plenty of space, but we can get ground detection done. Have it surveyed. There are maps out there. And, maybe we start by just opening it up to people who have ashes, because it's shallow, things like that. So,
Well, just
if we want to do this.
create a plan, yeah. 'Cause
But right now, it's just,
Yeah,
and we need to have a cemetery. I said to somebody the other day, most of the people on the committee are closer to the cemetery than they are.
exercise.
So
Maybe
I'm
I'm less interested.
what he's trying to say is we need to act fast.
I understand this spousal pressure.
No, but it's, we knew the Brogdons and they're really nice people and she's been very, very kind about it, but she,
So what
this is his.
what's our immediate action? Can we write to her and just say that we're aware that we haven't gotten back to you?
We've done that. So Mary has done that. She's been emailing Mary. And so if we want to do a formal action with the town, go ahead.
I think we should, and highlight the fact that that we are putting together a pilot program to begin to address the issues.
Would it be helpful to make a motion for this particular cemetery to be the first of the pilot
I
program?
don't think so right now. I think we have some work to, other work to do.
And that way she
I think
feels.
what we need to do, maybe it's part of the budgeting, but is start to do something soon. And I don't know what, so I obviously have somewhat of a vested interest there, or I know Bruce, who came and talked to us. I know the work he's done in Cavendish. I just don't know if others would be interested in sort of saying, we'll give him whatever it is, and you start to work it out. He's more than willing to do that.
Yeah.
He would like to come to the Historic Society and look at some of the maps. You should talk to Dan Moranci to see, what Dan has to say about this. And so, but I don't think he should do it for free.
Right. So we need a budget.
we need a budget, or do we have some money in our existing budget that we could pay him to do that? So maybe our next agenda item is we.
This is where you can literally assign ARPA money to
Or-
a specific
I
project.
don't think we did anything with the cemetery money this year, have we? So we have 3750. So maybe at our next meeting, we make a motion to hire Bruce for a certain amount of money, or have Bruce come up with a scope of work and say, and with a price.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Look, I mean, you can go ahead and have them come up with a scope of work. We don't need to take any action for them to do that.
Well, I want to make sure that we want to actually do that. So I'm not gonna have them go and do a scope when we're not really interested, or you may want to go out to bid, or you may, I don't know what you want to do.
You know, should we make a motion tonight, as Mandy's saying, to use that budget for this year to start a scope of work? Hopefully we won't use it all just for doing the scoping, we'll actually do some potential work. So I,
Sort of to get things moving.
maybe the motion is essentially saying we commit those funds to getting started on a pilot program, whatever. I mean, is that something like that? Okay.
You're talking solar or whatever, who would do that?
Well, he knows someone, or we may have to hire someone.
Well, Daryl Cochran's does it,
Okay, so there we go.
yeah. He might give us a price.
Okay, so can I ask for a motion then that we use the cemetery committee, existing cemetery committee budget to begin formulation of a pilot project on one of the town cemeteries?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Good. And Martin, thank you for getting back to us. Our energy committee consisted of 4 individuals. Martin and I received 3 resignations. 3 different people resigned. So I think tonight that we need to officially recognize that the energy committee is defunct for now. And we will need to kind of wait till the dust settles, we understand things a little bit better, and decide when to begin to advertise for more committee members and rebuild. I think the Energy Committee has done important work for us over the time, I would like our town to have one. I don't know if it's appropriate to just publicly thank the 3 people. So would like to thank Sarah Bruce, Ariel, and Carl Kremitzer. I can never get his name. Those are the 3 that resigned. Ariel and Carl have been longtime members, as Sarah has, and I very much appreciate their work that they've done for the town. I think that is it, except for going into executive session.
All right, so maybe just, we have 2 executive sessions. It sounds like there'll be an action after each one.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we're gonna send the CATV in and out of them a couple of times. All right,
Merit first.
Merit first, please.
Yeah,
So should we start the motions, or is there anything else to cover?
I don't have anything else. Let's do the motion. Let's get going.
Okay, so this is a 2-part motion. The first part, indicates that we have someone who's requesting financial assistance, and we'll be discussing their financial situation. And that type of documentation is not, that type of documentation is exempt from public inspection. So make a motion that under 1 V.S.A. 317 C7, that we have documentation to discuss that is exempt from public inspection.
Is there a second?
I just want to clarify, because on here we have 313A6.
That's the next one.
Okay, so
We
we're
gotta,
doing that
we
then.
gotta do this one.
Okay,
first.
then I'll second it. Just want to make sure.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Then therefore, I make a motion that we move to executive session to discuss a Merrick Campbell request pursuant to 1 V.S.A. 313A6.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All in favor.
Okay, now you are.
All right, so we've returned to open meeting at roughly 7:38. I'd like to make a motion to approve a Mary Campbell request for $459.86.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you.
All right, now I'd like to make a motion to enter executive session to discuss appointment, employment, or evaluation of a public officer or employee under one V.S.A. 313A3.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right.
Okay, so we've returned to open meeting. I'd like to make a motion to hire Tom Yannerl from MSI as a management consultant to the town.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
I'd also like to make a motion to extend Tom Yannerl from MSI to continue the recruitment for the new town manager.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
I'll make an emotion that we adjourn.
Hey, you all want to feel that? I'm going to Puerto Rico on Wednesday.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, baby.
What do we